On this week's show, the spring is coiled. We wonder, where was the pandemonium? And for the second time in history, the community asks, here is Niantic. Welcome back to Incense Podcast. This is episode 113. And from all of us here at Incense Podcast, we wish you a happy Easter if you celebrate it. If not, happy Chocolate Egg Day. I'm Ian Waterfall, and with me tonight on Masterful 27, Casual Coops, PoGoMiloUK, and Nick Oyzon. How's it going?
Nice.
Nice.
It's time. It's been a while.
Thanks for having me again.
I was a bit confused then, Nick. I wasn't sure if that noise was live or that was from our soundboard. I didn't know what was going on then. But Nick, mate, it's an absolute pleasure to have you back on. So thank you so much for your time and looking forward to your wise words later on in the show for sure.
So now I can say now we're probably going to be clipping a few more sound bites from you tonight. So don't hold back.
Cool. Easy.
There's one.
Yeah. No context.
Nothing's off limits.
Anyway, boys, how you guys doing?
Doing all right. I've had a little taster of the new event, and I'm ready to dive into those cherry blossom crowns.
Eevees, Pikachu's, chances.
I tried to be enthusiastic.
Save it, man, save it.
Yeah. What about you, Senor Waterfall?
Ready for it. Feel like it's going to be an interesting show. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Marky, how are you?
Good. I've made a point this week of playing some of the event as well, Milo. So you won't be on your own. I've sprung into spring and I've left it again now. But yeah, we'll have a good chat about that later.
Nick, have you actually looked at it 2 hours into the event?
I have. I went out for a coffee, played about 30 minutes, so I can offer a thorough perspective.
Fantastic. And I'm guessing Coops hasn't played a minute of this event. Am I right?
Sorry, Ian, I can't hear you. Sorry, mate, I can't hear you. Hashtag hear me, Ian. No, mate, I have not played. No, actually, that's not true. I just did a Shadow Trico, didn't I, before the recording? And I I caught a Flower Crown Baneri, which I actually thought came
It's
out.
only one event behind in that case.
Yeah, I'm still doing the Team Go Rocket one. But yeah, I thought the Flower Crown Baneri came out 3 years ago, or have I got that wrong? I don't know why it's on the map.
Yeah. Spoilers.
Isn't it a new flower crown? But we'll get into that later.
Okay, fine. Sorry.
Spoilers. But now, as is customary, before we move into the main show, it is time to
pop your incenses, champions. Let's go.
And don't forget to tag us with anything worthy of flexing on any of our socials. That is Twitter, Instagram, Campfire, WhatsApp, or good old-fashioned email at incensepodcast@yahoo.com using our hashtag Shinies of the Week.
Clarify the spelling.
And the hashtag is hashtag HEA. No, sorry, it's the wrong hashtag. Hashtag SHINIESOFTHEWEEK. Now.
Sorry, I've just thought of a new game, by the way.
Go on.
Well, we've got Nick on. What we could do, we've got all these creators' sound bites. We should play them all, and he's got to guess who's who. See how many points he comes out with.
Who's who?
Maybe later. Yeah. Right, let's get into the getting to know you.
Just tell me about you, mate. Just what's going on?
That's Zoe.
There we go.
1 point. Milo. Ding.
Woo! I'm on the board. Nice.
Rick, isn't it? Yeah.
Who's that?
It's Rick.
So, a couple of days ago, we reached out to the Incense audience and asked them to ask us anything. Literally anything. And you guys did. This one's from Mirko. Do you see in-person Go events increase this summer after... Okay, I'm going to be mentioning it. After the Remote Raid Nerf.
Wait.
I didn't read the question.
The reason why this is so funny to all the listeners, Ian was like before the show, he was like, Coops, do not mention it first thing. My guy, first question, he's like, the Remote Raid.
It's top of the list.
I know. Oh, you're funny.
It's unavoidable.
Yeah. Nick, jump in, man.
Was the question, do I see them increasing?
Yeah, that's the question.
At this point, I feel like no, because we haven't even heard anything yet about them, which is surprising to me. But also, I feel like just kind of in general, the attendance for all of the events seemed lower than what it was pre-pandemic. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know.
I'll run with it. I can't see it happening, as Nick just alluded to. This time last year, we'd already had all of the Go Fest announced, and people had already booked tickets and
we
flights.
already booked for Seattle at this point.
So I genuinely don't see live events increasing because of that.
I agree. Sadly, it would be nice if they put a few more in-person events in, but the fact that we haven't heard anything at this point, April the 4th.
We were hoping for more events, weren't we? We were talking about this the other week.
I mean, we've theorized on many a show about like where we'd like to go, what city or country would be really cool to actually get, say, a Safari Zone or a Go Fest, where is kind of almost owed a live event, and a quarter or more of the year has already gone, and we still haven't heard anything. That's a bit scary.
And I will just say, I'm not going to answer this because I'm still trying to figure out the difference between a Go Fest and a Safari Zone. So, Marky, over to you. Then we'll get the next question in.
I'm hoping now. I made this point maybe a couple of months ago, where I think if they're going to make some big changes this year, I think the end game would be to get more people together to play the game. We talk about this going out there and getting together and that. And I thought would then be the, excuse the language, like the really, I'm not even going to swear in it, doesn't even warrant it. This was going to be the bad news. And then suddenly, like within 48 hours, and go, however, we've got 30 in-person events in conveniently located places all around the world for everybody to go to. So you can all raid in person. And we're going to make it so easy for you. I'm hoping that's going to happen.
It would probably been better if they did give us a sandwich with the news. So, question 2. This one's from Thomas at 96_Tom L. If you had the choice to move to any other country, where would you move to?
I know you guys so well. I could literally guess for every single one of you. Maybe apart from Nick.
Ooh, let's do
Nick,
it.
Nick, you do yours first, then I'm going to try and guess where all the 3 would go.
Jeez, sometimes I think about going to New Zealand.
Ooh.
Like, I know they deal with bugs every single event, but like
you get the event
being
first.
the first one to play the event and put a video out would be great for content, and also like everything going wrong would also be great for content because people love when things go wrong. Yeah. It gets them fired up. New Zealand from a content perspective, maybe Japan just because it's Japan.
I'm so annoyed. If I was going to guess you, Nick, I was going to say Japan. I should have gone for it. Okay, right.
Be brave,
Ian. I'm gonna start this off because I know this is going to be 1-0 straight away. Germany.
I love Germany, but basically growing up, I always wanted to live in the States. Probably not with what's going on at the moment over there, but it would be either one of the two.
I was going to say Germany, and I was going to say the
or
States.
America.
Yeah, okay. So wait, so you're going with USA, so technically I've got it wrong. Okay, Milo, over to you. We'll just forget this. We'll just go back to Milo. I've already got it wrong. It was USA.
Do you want to have a guess at mine or not?
This has turned into some sort of weird game, but...
We don't have a jingle, unfortunately.
And you initiated it, Coops. Just because you got one wrong doesn't mean you need to give up now.
Yeah. Listen here.
That's usually a strat, isn't it?
Listen here, Mr. Australia in the corner there. Did I get that right?
Copenhagen, mate. You don't know as good enough, mate, do you?
Oh.
Damn. 2 years. Oh, why not? Let's make it 0-3 to me. Milo, I'm going to guess... Is it somewhere in Europe?
This isn't 20 questions.
No. Ealing?
PoGoMiloUK, where you at, bro?
It's actually a very good question. I would quite like Spain. Something about Spain for me would be nice. Get the good climate. Maybe really south of Spain, like Sevilla or something around there. That could be really nice.
That's almost a year ago as well.
It's exactly scary. I think Spain for me.
You went there, Mark.
I know. I was getting it in for Coops.
You were included in the shenanigans.
I know.
But yeah, even though I am epically failed on that game, I'll never, ever, ever suggest to do that again. Mine would be Australia, as you guys know.
You've never mentioned it before.
Yeah, okay. Calm down, Mr. Germany.
Love a donut?
Nick, who was that?
That was Zoe.
Oh dear.
No.
That's what I had to do.
Play it again, Milo.
Who doesn't love a donut?
Who was that? There was interference. And the second time now, I just can't tell.
Yeah, say the signal cut out.
Yeah.
Yes.
You had the right country, but the wrong content creator.
Oh.
Fleece King.
In Nick's defence, Ian, you didn't want this game, so don't try to bring it in now just because it suits you. Don't. Nick, I've got your back, bro. I've got your back.
Appreciate it.
Stitch him up.
Next up is a question from Spindiana. Is there anything a friend or partner could say or do that would be an absolute deal breaker for you and result in ending that relationship?
Ooh.
So what is your unforgivable red line?
Stop pursuing what you're interested in, I think. If you try and change what my interests are, that's a no-go. I'm
Good
afraid.
answer, actually, mate. I hear you with that.
Very good
I
answer.
hear that.
I think anything that changes you as a person to who you are as you are now. I mean, the stage of my relationship, you know that was definitely not going to happen to get to this stage. When you start looking at things like that. Yeah, I think that's a good one, Milo, actually. I think something that fundamentally changes you from who you are. Not specifics, but yeah, definitely. I think that would be my answer as well.
Is it a cop-out if I just like pile on? Same answer?
Oh, go for it, man.
It's kind of the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
I feel very strongly about my individuality, you know? Go about my life in the way that I want. Obviously, within a relationship, there's compromise, but like pushing too hard on the changing me as a person.
Yeah, changing your passions.
It is weird when that happens because people fall in love with you because of you, and then you're in a relationship, and then they try and change it. It's very weird. Very, but that does happen. For me, I feel like I can sort of talk about anything. I'd want my partner to be able to open up and give their opinion about anything. So for me, I don't really have any sort of phrase or sentence or conversation that would make me want to end the relationship. But I think if we're walking down the street and she was like, oh, look at him, he's really hot. Oh, he's really hot. I think I'd have to go, hold on a minute, what's going on here? So, but no.
Noise.
Yeah. Miss Tiggles in the chat says, I once finished a bloke because my dog didn't like him.
Depends on how the dog reacts as he goes into attack mode.
And I think for me, if I'm just going to be honest, don't break my trust. If you completely lose my trust, then that's a deal breaker. So I'm pretty laid back, but yeah.
I'll bear that in mind, Ian.
Yeah, of course you will.
Yeah. Right, okay, next up, our very own HermesNinja. Let's talk snacks. Sweet or salty? Or savoury, I guess.
Salty,
Sweet
sure.
every time.
Yeah, and me, sweet.
Savoury.
I think it must be an age thing. Seriously, give me potato chips any day of the week. It's savoury every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've never had a sweet tooth.
Ooh, 3-2.
Nick, Mark, and I win.
Moving on. What?
What game is this? What's the name?
It's one I just made up. Okay, Julia Glass asks, what's your favourite tipple?
Favorite what?
What?
Tipple?
Tipple, it's English. Alcohol, what do you like to drink alcohol-wise?
Do I even need to answer this question?
Finally learning
I think
English.
Milo is going to be gin. It depends how hard we're going. I mean, we all know I do like a tequila, but is it my favourite? I don't know.
Shout out the Tequila Man chat.
Give me, actually, no, I'm going to go bourbon, actually. I'm going to go bourbon.
Schmunky shoulder.
Schmunky shoulder. That still scars me.
Come on then. I feel like you were guessing everyone, no?
I know Nick's partial to a tequila.
That is correct.
But don't ask me how I know that. I can't remember what Mark was drinking that night. I think you were on the beers, weren't you, Mark?
I've changed my taste so you would not get this. I've got a newfound love for rum.
Oh, okay. A dark rum or a light rum?
All types of rum. Since we've moved, we found a lovely rum bar, and that's where I've been frequenting the last few Friday nights. Enough said. Moving on. Coops, what's yours, bud?
I've definitely answered this before. I just love beer. I love all types of beer.
The wife beater.
Beer. Okay, Ian. A massive beer advocate. By the way, Tequila Man's in the chat right now. He says, hey. He says Tequila Man.
Yeah, Tequila. Okay, next up. Kitty Pokemons a lot. Oh, I don't know if I'd know the answer to this one. If you're on death row, what would be your final meal?
Jeez.
Wow.
Long turning in life there.
Go on, Nick.
Go on, Nick. Set the tone.
I don't know. I guess some sushi probably. Some like really just like uni, some sweet shrimp, maybe some monkfish liver.
Ooh.
That sounds good.
Some bougie sushi. Oh, I nearly messed that up. It's a tough one, Ian, for me.
A kebab?
Just because I'm from South London, mate, it's not all we eat. I could have a roast dinner. I could have fish and chips. I could have a curry. Absolutely love a curry. I could have that.
It's your last ever meal.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have a curry. I'm going to have a curry with a garlic naan. Don't forget that.
Nice. For my choice, we might need to play this jingle. We know what section that alludes to. give me a nice juicy New York strip
What is that? What's a
steak.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'd be very happy with that, with some nice sweet potato fries. Since I'm going to die, I'd leave the salad behind.
It's only a garnish anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
See, Nick, I'm learning English as well. What did you say? What's it called?
New York strip.
A New York strip.
That's me in Vegas.
Beep, 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 beep.
I was umming and ahhing with fish and chips, but I'm with Coops on this. It'd have to be a curry. And I'd have a keema naan with mine, which would be delightful. And I hope they let me have enough time to thoroughly enjoy it and digest some of the meal before they finish me off. I thought Milo was going to say I'd forego the food for like 20 minutes of mobile phone time, so I could play one last round of Pokemon Go.
It's a different type of consumption.
My last vlog.
No. It's like, can I trade my last meal to get one 20-minute session of a golden lure Pokestop myself?
Yeah.
To be fair, Marky, 20 minutes is probably enough time to do 5 remote raids, isn't it?
Almost.
Almost, yeah.
Mark's gone the same line as Coops. I think I'm going to have to go a similar line to Milo, but I think I'd go filet mignon with some nice steak cut fries or steak cut chips. Yeah, just a nice steak dinner. Grass-fed, yeah, because we've got to be healthy. You've got to be almost like vegetarian in our thing. So grass-fed filet mignon. Okay, one last question before we move on. We'll let Coops answer this one first. From pen pal Simon.
Oh, brilliant.
If the Internet podcast ended and your 3 co-hosts quit the game and podcasting, and you had to start a new podcast with 2 people, obviously you're one of them, and you had to pick a co-host from any Pokemon Go podcast, who would you pick and why?
He just wants us to pick him, doesn't he? That's what he wants.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't got a podcast yet.
Fair point, Ian.
If he listens to the podcast, he'll know I don't actually like podcasts, so I don't...
He actually stopped.
Yeah. No, I would pick... Do you know who I really liked and I really vibe with? And this isn't just because I'm musical theatre, we got along, but I really like Chris from GoCast. I feel like we both bounce off each other's energy. But then there's also Ken from Lured Up as well, because I feel like we would just argue back and forth for the hour and it would be really exciting content. Probably do people's head in after 10, 20 weeks, but I think that would be fun creating that.
GoCast Chris for me. I feel like we got on very well, good back and forth banter. I think it could be an interesting show, potentially, if it's got to be 2 people.
My podcast wouldn't be about Pokemon Go. It might have a little bit about Pokemon Go. My co-host would be someone who has got a bit of love for the artwork, the TCG, like myself. And I think me and Adam from Lurd would bounce off each other quite well. Me and Adam Tull.
Interesting.
Nice guy. Be a nice dynamic there. That'd be my choice. Great question, Simon.
I'm not stealing Coop's answer, but probably Ken, because the guy never shuts up. So if you ever stuck for a word, he'd just literally just keep talking. So
yeah.
So I'd probably go for Ken.
You're looking for voice filler.
Hey, we need to fill that runtime, man. So come on in, Nick. Who would you start a podcast with if you had to?
Oh, man. That's a great question. Can I answer it more from like a YouTube perspective?
Yeah.
Like if I had to make YouTube videos with someone, I feel like probably the cruise ship. Like I just have so much fun hanging out with Tom. And I feel like he's super entertaining. And then our personalities are pretty different. So I feel like there's some contrast there.
Tom literally has all the energy in the world, or at least he appears to have whenever we've seen him.
Yeah.
It's a good dynamic.
Yeah, it would.
Definitely
I
a good
think
dynamic.
that would work, actually.
Yeah.
We've done challenges in the past.
Yeah, and, I just enjoy beating him at things and making him wax his legs.
That was a good one. Actually, speaking of which, at GoFest, would you go for a challenge with us lot? We don't know what it would be yet, but would you?
Or where?
Or when?
We like challenges.
Yeah. We can make something happen.
So thanks for those Ask Us Anything. Some really insightful and interesting conversation there. Now, there's been one burning subject that's dominated Pokemon Go in the last week, and I think it's time we looked into it. What do you reckon?
Yes, Ian. Mate, you can imagine how passionate I feel about this, and I cannot wait to talk about it. That subject is Pidgey Pandemonium. Yeah. Didn't expect me to say that, did ya?
Of course, last weekend was Pidgey Pandemonium, last Saturday in Pokemon Go, the April Fool's event. I don't think we need to take more than a couple of minutes to talk about this.
I think we do, because if you don't mind, Ian, I did a little bit of research. Now, I just want to remind you all, over the years, we've obviously had a few April Fool's events. Now, in 2018, if you guys remember this, we had the 8-bit sprites and shiny Murkrow release, right? Amazing.
Nice.
2019, we had shiny Ash Hat Pikachu and special photobombs. Amazing.
Nice.
2020, Stunfisk debut, good for Great League, shiny Krogunk release, and tricky Pokemon in the wild.
Noise.
2021, Team Go Rocket only had Shadow Apom, tricky Pokemon in the wild, and GBL Switch Timer was cut in half. I remember that. I literally loved that.
Nice.
And in 2022, Ditto Disguise spawns increased and Ditto transformation chances increased as well.
Nice.
And in 2023, we got Pidgey.
Do you know what was impressive, Coops? I finished the research line in quicker time than it took you to roll all that out then on previous
Really?
events. It makes it sound worse when you recall it like that, don't you?
We've had some good April Fool's events in the past, and this, in my opinion, wasn't up to the mark. The Pidgey were even barely spawning in a lot of areas, you know?
Well, the thing that got me that was really peculiar is you go, here's Pidgey Pandemonium, Pidgey's causing havoc. You get a sticker, which I didn't get any of from the Pokestops. You could only buy these Coops of Pidgey with Professor Willow's glasses or goggles.
Right.
They're trying to pull it away or something. You had to buy them. I never got it from the Pokestop, which is annoying. But the event was 1 p.m. till, 7 p.m.?
1 till 7.
And for the first 2 hours, basically Pidgey didn't really exist.
No.
And you had to wait 2 hours into the event to get a selection of research that took about 20 seconds to complete.
Which was catch and transfer 10
That
and
could
5.
be an April Fool's gag, but it's a bit of a lead balloon of one, really.
Yeah, I think I caught 2.
Yeah.
I saw, how it was going on Twitter, and I just decided, I don't really need to do that.
And the selling point of the event was XXS and XSL.
It's not content. I've moved on from hats, and now this is my new thing. It's not.
Yes.
It's not anything.
Yeah.
It's not real.
No, it's the thing that they had it
No.
for the Meltan Let's Go box. They're like, this is one of the 5 bonuses, including getting shiny Meltan.
Mhm.
Here's XXL and XXS Meltan. And they did the same for Pidgey, but in the same circumstance, they just didn't really appear. I think I got less than 4. You play for 3 hours or whatever, and you think, life and too short. Immediately come to mind.
But let's be honest, to make an event that bad, they must have put a lot of effort into making it that bad.
You make a good point, because it is April Fool's, right? That's what it's all about. But for me, when I was reading off that list, they've either proper pranked us and this was supposed to be this bad, or they've literally stopped trying. They've genuinely stopped trying. Because,
they've just given up.
Yeah, because I understand the XXS and the XXL, and Nick says, that's kind of a... I understand the XXS, Ian, yeah. But like Nick said, that's just like a joke in itself. But that's a proper feature. So it doesn't feel like that was supposed to be a joke, because they
worthwhile bonus.
Yeah, because they implemented it as an actual new feature in the game. So it's kind of like, if it was just released for that one day, you go, oh no, they're proper winding us up. But that got released a few months ago as an actual feature. So I'm not speechless. Sorry, speechless.
I think it's safe to say it's the worst April Fool's event we've had in the game. I mean, just look at some of the events you've reeled off there, Coops.
HermesNinja Sue in the chat says, remember, an April Fool's joke actually needs to be a joke. It needs to be funny. This was ... not.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
That's it then.
Anything else to add? Yeah. And yeah, as Coop said, that's it. So, Mark, over to you for this week's...
It's the news.
Voice sounds familiar.
Am I still guessing?
Who is
go
it?
for it.
Was that
Yeah.
was that Rev? Is that vintage?
Is that reverse?
There we go.
Hey!
Mark won't
That's what I
actually
was
do the
looking
news till
for.
he hears Joe's voice.
Miss Reversal. He's a good lad, Miss Reversal. Good boy. He's back again, actually. He's dusted his little soapbox out and he's back. Bless him. Good to have you, Rev. Good to have you back.
One day only.
Exactly. One hashtag only in. But no, the news. Loads of news to run through, and I'll try and make it very top line. So basically, storage for Pokemon has now been expanded to 6,300. That's up 50. And item capacity's gone up to 5,300. That's up 50. There we go. That is the news.
It is. It's the news.
Thank you very much, Mark. Now, Coops has normally missed a game, but this week, Milo. Arise, Sir Game.
What's the dicklet? It's good to have this game back. Why this one was selected, I am not sure. But if you don't know,
we haven't played it since we had a guest on last.
There might be a reason for that. But anyway, What's the Ducklet is quite a simple game that we don't really like. Basically, I'm going to rattle off a Pokédex entry description, and you've got to guess what the Pokemon is. And we're going to do a first to two, unless it gets very draggy, in which case whoever gets it right first will win. So let us begin. And this is a chime in straight away, like with your guess. This Pokemon is said to be a Pokemon that brings good fortune. When the Pokemon spots someone who is of pure heart, it is said to appear and share its happiness with that person.
Spinder.
Chansey.
Jirachi?
Togepi.
Blissey?
Mew.
Togekiss?
Love Disc.
Mark is correct.
No way.
It is Toga. Oh, no, it's not.
Wait, what?
Togetic.
It's Togetic. Sorry. It's because I'd swiped on the bloody thing by accident.
All right, well, I've got my next guess.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Wait, what was the answer?
It was Togetic.
Milo, you love this game so much. You just messed
I
it
accidentally
all up.
pressed on the Togekiss
Got excited.
evolution to move it through.
Listen, practice round. Now, listen.
Do you want to know the best bit? We're leaving that in the edit.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm leaving it in. It was that catastrophic.
I was going to say, but listen. Now, Nick, think of the positives. Nick understands the game now. The poker, he understands it.
He
So
does.
practice round.
Okay, let's do it
practice
first to
He
one
does.
then, Milo.
Yeah.
Yeah, first to one. First person to get it.
Okay, fine. First person to guess it wins. Okay, here we go. Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle.
Slack off.
Yeah.
This Pokemon, it's notably wary and has a dislike of fighting, but at the same time, it can deliver powerful kicks with its lithe legs.
Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, Hitmontop,
Hold on. You can't keep guessing.
Machop,
We're doing
Hates
first
fighting.
to one.
Oh, so we can keep guessing.
Fighting.
Machop,
Just throw it in.
Machamp,
I can't even
Hates
think of what
fighting.
Pokemon was
You've
like.
Fighting
burnt
type
your
Pokemon.
round.
Hates fighting.
Timber.
Bunnelby.
Chicken Combuskin.
Everyone gets a guess and I'll give a clue, okay?
Go on, E.
It hates fighting, so it's probably not a fighting type.
Logical that, I mean, Coops.
Kangaskhan?
Okay,
It's long legs. Didn't it say long?
live.
Oh,
live
legs.
Okay.
I'm going to give you two clues for this one. This Pokemon has a Mega Evolution,
Oh my god.
and its shiny is pink.
Lopunny.
Alakazam.
Oh, Nick
Nick,
wins. Yeah,
nice.
congrats.
Nick takes the
Yeah.
point,
Yes.
There we
taking the
go.
dub of what is the worst organised game I've ever held.
Hang on, we've got another game to go yet. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Oh, it's the short one. Thank you. Good.
Yes, it is the short one, thankfully, because we have to move on to something that is very important to discuss.
Yes, Milo. We've got the Spring into Spring event to talk about. It's a live event. It's been going for, as we record this, a few hours now. Milo, you've probably completed it, got the T-shirt again, as you seem to do on recording nights when a new event comes on.
Yes, I've got that Cherry Blossom T-shirt
That was
completed.
research on it.
Are you adorned with it yet?
Adorned, wearing it. It's behind my microphone, so you can't see it. Ian, there's a collection challenge, mate.
This shows you how much I've actually looked at the game today. So I sound like Coops today, actually.
And what's wrong with that?
Nothing, man. Nothing. Don't worry.
Good answer. Ding, if I had a soundboard.
Oh,
Let me start this off then. I've got my Shadow Trico from a bloom when I just turned on the game. Did see that there's Baneri. Looks like Whismur is everywhere. Not sure why that is. It just kind of looks like a repeat, what feels like an event when I was in my vlogging days, which would have been 3 years ago. From my 10-minute opinion, it looks horrendous, but maybe that's just me.
Oh, there
It's
actually is a
not.
collection challenge that gives you 10,000 XP,
Yeah, I wasn't
5,000
lying.
Stardust, and one lucky egg.
Amazing. It's better than the Let's Go one, or whatever the other collection challenge was.
They're taking the mickey a bit, aren't they, at the moment? But this event historically has been quite a good event. Spring into Spring used to be like one of those events you'd really look forward to. I put this game on today without realising what it was about. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to just play the game blind to all the featured Pokemon. I know we've spoken a bit about it, but I didn't look at any of the announcements. Put it on, and a bit like Coops said, it felt like I'd gone back 4 years in time. Okay, there is a new Pokemon in it.
Yeah, Cutifly's out, yeah.
Yeah, I found that it's not good for PvP today. I thought it might be, but obviously not.
Home Slice
So,
Henry would beg to differ. He's already got a video out. He does
let's
quite
see
well
what
with
he
it.
Does it have Frenzy Plant? Is that what it usually has?
No, Hydro Cannon.
I've played it a little bit. I will try and get the lucky egg, obviously, because there's a collection challenge, but it just doesn't feel like there's enough in it. But that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, you know, if you're far enough away from your phone, you can't even tell the difference between this new flower crown and the old one. Like, they look identical.
They've just inverted the colours, haven't they? Literally.
But the colours were quite similar to start with.
Yeah. They couldn't even put it on the opposite side of the head. Like, it's the exact same spot. It's, I don't know. Riolu's back in eggs, so that's something for anyone who isn't me and hasn't given up hope.
Well, I hadn't given up hope until today. As I went out, I did quite a few batches of 2 kilometer eggs and got 1 Riolu out of maybe 50 eggs.
Sorry, what?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's bad odds.
Sorry, Milo.
I would just say personal RNG is always a factor in these things, and Riolu's never liked me, but I cannot count the number of cutie fly that came out of 2 kilometer eggs. And yeah, it does feel like a rehash. If you're going to change the costume, like put an actually different coloured flower crown on there, because this, you literally cannot tell the difference. But the only way I knew it was different was the fact that there was shadows to start with Pikachu and Eevee, because I don't think the flower crown for Chansey, Togetic and Baneri are different. I think they're the same, but only the Pikachu and the Eevee were different.
Chansey will get it next year.
Yes. The only kind of positive thing is you can get some costume Togetic ahead of the Com Day.
Steady up, Milo.
Which is the next 6 days.
Of course you mentioned that.
And I have to second everything that the rest of you have said. I've not played the event a lot, as you probably heard a few seconds ago, but what I have played is it's nice to have a new mon in the game, although I don't think it's that great. Certainly not one I'm going to be stockpiling. Unless you're a shiny costume hunter and want all of these different versions of Eevee, which is going to be a mammoth task over the next couple of years, as long as they leave this crown in place for a while. I really don't think there's a lot to chase in it. Collection challenges are getting old hat now. I mean, we're into the 100+ collection challenges for anyone that's been to live events. So
tell me,
I suppose
101.
I suppose we'll just be ramping that number up and aim for 999, I guess.
Yeah, I want to see it get to 999, and then when it gets to 1,000,
it'll go back to 0.
It just goes over the medal.
Yeah,
it'll be like the gyms. It'll just go back to 0.
Yeah, it just resets you.
All I'll say again, and apologies for repeating myself, but I don't know if you guys agree, it genuinely feels like they've stopped trying. It really does feel like I'd switched this event on 4 years ago. It feels exactly the same. And it's like, come on, even the Mega, I'm not expecting there to be another bloody Easter Bunny Mega. I'm not expecting that, you know what I mean? At least something. Like I said, I agree with Nick about the flower crowns, and just literally feels like the 2019 version of Spring into Spring, if there even was one in 2019. I don't know at this point.
Well said. But there is one thing that you can do if you're chasing certain Pokemon, is have a community day for it, just like Milo has in a few days' time. Well, next week, in fact. So, Nick, do you want to give us a quick 60-second recap of what we can expect for April's community day?
In 60 seconds, Togetic is the featured Pokemon. Saturday, April 15th, 2 to 5 p.m. local time. Bonuses include increased spawns of Togetic, believe it or not, 1/4 hatch distance, 3-hour incense, 3-hour lures, double catch candy, double chance to receive Candy XL from catching Pokemon if you're over level 31, 1 additional special trade for a maximum of 2. Trades are 50% off. The featured move is Aura Sphere, which, does anyone know if that's making a difference in like Master League?
Coops?
Don't ask me.
So. I don't think so.
Togepi is also in 2 kilometer eggs that are obtained during the event. They have boosted shiny odds in the eggs. There is a note that Togepi is not going to be the only Pokemon hatching from 2 kilometer eggs. Good luck, I guess. Post Community Day raids are back as well. Togetic in raids
Nice.
and then spawning after raids. Is that happening?
Yep.
Togetic. It's all Togetic. With a field research task, catch 3 Togetic, and you get maybe a Togetic.
Nice.
Oh, don't forget there's a ticket. You can buy a ticket for the research if you want that too. Rewards probably include Togetic.
Nice.
So now you've said Togetic so many times, Nick. Are you buzzing for this community day?
Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Can't wait.
Is that sarcasm, Nick?
No, I am actually excited. I actually booked a flight. I'm going somewhere for this one.
Oh, no way.
Nice.
Where are you off
Fun.
to?
Ooh.
It's a bit of a secret right now.
Leave it as a surprise. Come
It'll
on.
be fun. It'll be fun though. It'll be really
You're going to
interesting.
see Nick's video after that.
I have no idea what
Yes.
it's going to be like. I'll say that much.
Right, let's do it. We've been putting this moment off for most of the show. So, back in February, over the Hoenn Tour weekend in Las Vegas, rumors started swirling about nerfs coming on remote raids. There was little notes on raid passes that were spotted in the game code and live on some people's games. They were swiftly removed and everything remained quite quiet on that until March 30th, when Niantic announced that remote raids would be restricted to 5 per day, and prices for remote passes would also go up. Let's get into it and give our thoughts. But before we do, let's just do a little bit of a sort of sense test here. And how many remote raids would you do on an average day with an average raid boss?
Over the last year and a half, 2 years, I'm probably averaging 0.1 raids per day. I've really like stopped raiding for the most part.
Congratulations, Nick. This feature was made for you. For me, this is a tough question. I'm not trying to answer it like casual Coops, Ian, but...
No, I'm saying average raid boss. I'm not talking Giratina or one of your bang outs. I'm talking average.
Yeah. Do you mind giving me an average? Like telling me what,
The average raid boss, so we're talking something like maybe, like, let's say Thunderous or
zero,
what else? You've got
zero.
the Reggies or...
Yeah, 0.
I'm not talking your Rayquazas, I'm not talking your Giratinas, I'm not talking your Mewtwo's.
No, perfect. As long as I know that, yeah, 0. If it was just Reggie's...
I don't know about that being
Tornadoes.
an average raid boss, because
Yeah, it's
the
hard
Reggies
to-
are literally in the bucket of manure as things go.
Well, okay, like I said, not a bang out, not one that we're all going to go
I'm going
crazy
to pitch
for.
this and let me know if you think this is an average raid boss. It's altered Giratina. So it's not the one that you need to get loads of, but you could still farm it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. 0.
Perfect. There we go.
Yeah.
I'll answer this for any raid boss that comes out, because my raid games dropped off probably the last year or so as well. I probably, a day, average no more than 1 or 2.
Okay, now before we go to Milo, because we know Milo's going to say like 200. I
Not enough hours in the
personally, no, it isn't, and I'll get into the math in a second. In true 2018 trainer tip style.
Hey.
Now, I do vary. On an average raid boss, something that isn't amazing, but on an average raid boss, it would be anywhere between sort of 2 and 10. If it's an amazing one, obviously that's going to shoot through the roof, but somewhere between 2 and 10, I would say. And Whitfield, go on.
For an average sort of raid boss per day, I would honestly say about 15,
Okay.
probably.
Okay,
And
fair.
that's the thing, is it fluctuates a lot, but if you're going to take the law of averages, probably a sort of around the 15 mark per day.
Fair, okay. So let's get into some basic maths. So we know that a raid lobby is up to 2 minutes, depending on when you join. There's a 300-second timer. An average raid boss, you're probably going to take down in a couple of minutes, and then your reward and encounter screen, you might critical catch it, but again, it could take you a couple of minutes. So let's use a ballpark of 6 minutes end-to-end to do a raid, remote raid. So you can do 10 an hour, if you're doing them back to back to back. Again, on average, not everybody, but you tend to sleep about 8 hours a day, so you're awake for 16 hours a day, roughly. So if you were one of the people that literally was raiding non-stop from the moment you wake up, you go to bed, you'd be able to raid probably 160 to 170 raids a day. I don't think anyone's going to argue that the raid cap should be set at 150, because let's face it, who's got the time to do that? But I think we can all agree that 5 is probably, which is the raid cap they've put in, is probably very, very prohibitive.
Stingy.
So what do we think about this? So, of course, we know now that effective from Thursday, but obviously as this goes out on Sunday, we will be actually locked to a maximum of 5 remote raids per day. So What do we think about that in itself?
Go on, Milo. There's only one person to go first than you.
I mean, obviously, I don't agree with it. I can honestly see their thought behind the process, but the conclusion is literally cracking an egg with a sledgehammer approach, because you've also got to factor in, like, people might raid other things, it's like megas. There might be people chasing
exactly.
1 stars.
It's not just going to be legendaries.
There are huge amounts of factors and different ways that people play or remote. I know a hot topic of conversation has been people who have no choice but to remote.
And those people will still be able to do 5 a day.
Indeed.
Let's look at it.
I do agree that maybe a limit could be in place, but I think the strategy of how it's been done is extremely poor, because talking to my local squad, not everybody can do 5 raids a day. And a key example of this is raid hour. And I think everybody could say, like, if it's a goodish raid boss or whatever, you might want to chain raid with your global friends around the globe and hit the raid hours in different time zones. But if you're 5 remotes a day that you can't do that effectively, why not give the power to the player and say, do away with the cap of 3 or 5 remotes in your bag and allow people to stack. You can only buy 5 remotes a day, but you stack them up and you choose them when you use them. Most people may not raid on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday, but I guarantee people will partake in raid hour, even if it's not their own local area, or on the weekend. But then again, there may be people who work weekends, they may want to raid at a different time. I think that would be a better strategy, to be honest. Put the ball in the player's court.
Oh, man. So the thing that I think makes this
Therapy,
I'm getting it all out. The thing that makes this so difficult is that there are so many different types of players. You know, some of us are not really raiding at all. Some people are raiding a ton. I don't know what the solution is. And I feel like all of these great ideas, like Milo, that's absolutely a great idea. I think from a player's perspective makes a ton of sense, but it reminds me of something else where, like, what was it? I can't even remember at this point, but there was something else where it was like Community Day, when they shortened Community Day to 3 hours. Yep. And everyone was like, why not let us choose when we can do it? Like, what if there's a ticket for Community Day and you can start a 3-hour window? And obviously, like, that didn't happen. We kind of got an alternative in that there's the raids afterwards, so you can sort of get the spawns later on in the day if that's, you know, works better with your schedule or whatever. So I could see, like, maybe some kind of compromise like that. But I think the thing that makes this entire situation so difficult for me to talk about is that the impression that I've gotten, I mean, recently, but also just like over the last 7 years, is that it doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what we suggest, how good we as players think the ideas are. It's not making it past a certain level within Niantic or the Pokemon company or whoever else is involved in making the decisions. My conclusion is that somewhere near the top, at the executive level, you know, whether it's John Hankey, probably someone, you know, close to him, they're just about their vision more than anything else. And, you know, whether that's like some nefarious goal of selling location data, or like they really do just want people to go outside and like trying to make the world a better place, whatever the actual reason is, that is what it is for them. And, you know, all these ideas that players are suggesting, all the pushback, we're basically going through the 5 stages of grief, right? There was a long period of denial from the very beginning. We knew that remote raiding was a temporary solution. Like, that was from day one that was told to us. And then we kind of spent almost 3 years in denial about it coming to an end. Like, no one really came to terms with that. And now that it's sort of official, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of bargaining. You know, all these ideas being suggested are bargaining. And I personally don't believe that it's going anywhere. It is being picked up and heard by people whose job it is to listen. That is then being conveyed to people whose job it is to make decisions. And the people whose job it is to make decisions are making the decisions that they want to make, not that the players want them to make. And so I feel stuck as like a representative of the community, because last year around this time, I kind of came to the conclusion that I put a lot of energy into making content about how Niantic was wrong about a lot of things, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of focusing on the negative things, the stuff that players didn't like, because it got a lot of engagement. You know, that's just how the internet works, is like people get upset, outrage gets more engagement. But I realized at some point, like, if I keep making videos trashing Niantic and their decisions, I'm making videos for people who do not enjoy the game, for people who are angry, for people whose trajectory is towards quitting the game. And that's not an audience that's going to come back. And on top of that, like, there was this pressure that I was expected to accomplish something for the community, on behalf of the community, that like people looked at me and saw like, okay, you get to talk to Niantic, so you can make a difference. And after 5 or 6 years of not being able to do that, I had to let go of that. I had to let go of putting that pressure on myself, because it wasn't good for my mental health. It wasn't good for my content. It just wasn't good for me. So I think at that point, that was kind of a turning point for me to just like move to acceptance of, this is something that's out of my control. And I think that's just kind of where I've landed with it. Whatever Niantic is doing is out of my control. No matter how many times I've been able to meet with them and speak with them, whatever they ultimately end up doing is out of my control. And I don't think it's worth my mental health to push back against it. That being said, like, acceptance doesn't mean approval. Like, I don't think it's a good move. I don't think revoking accessibility is the right move for the game, for players. There's a lot of people who've come to rely on remote raids. There's a lot of people who have been able to really play and enjoy the game for the first time because of remote raids, whether they're rural, whether they have a disability that prevents them from going outside and walking around to raids as easily as other people. Whatever the reason is, there's a lot of people who have gotten to experience the game because of remote raids, and those players are absolutely valid for being upset. Those people absolutely deserve to be able to play the game, but I just don't know what I can do at this point. It's hard. It's sad, I think, to just be at this point where like I've just kind of had to accept it.
Fair.
Yeah.
No, I think, I don't know, just being aware of like how upset you're allowing yourself to be is important, and having perspective is important, because I'm all for speaking up, you know, especially for people who can't necessarily do it for themselves, people, marginalized people. Like, again, in this case, we're talking about a lot of people with disabilities, but I think it's also very important, like, not just with Pokemon Go, but like life in general. This is kind of how I approach my life as a whole, is to really sit with emotions and observe them, and just be aware of when I am allowing myself to kind of give in to negative emotions, when they're really, getting worse than they need to be. I guess I think there is an appropriate level of response for this, and maybe I don't know what it is, but once again, I'm getting nowhere. But I think I've said what I want to say. Do what you enjoy, and if you are not enjoying something that you used to enjoy, if you're not enjoying it anymore, it's okay to change. It's okay to do something else. I know that's scary, especially because of the connections that we've built through this game, the relationships that we've built through this game. That's what I hear a lot of people talking about. And I think it's important to note that, like, you can still have those friendships. You can still have those relationships without the game. Like, as a personal example, Reversal quit the game. Like, we don't play Pokemon Go together anymore, but we still text each other. We still talk. Like, we're still friends. So, it's okay for things to change. It's okay to fight against things that you don't want to change. But for me, I mean, acceptance has been like a really, really powerful tool in life.
When I first saw the announcement come out, I did sort of look at it and go, do you know what? I do agree with elements of this. As a rural player, and I've played a big proportion of my Pokemon Go experience rurally, having very little building village up, enjoyed that, saw the benefit of it, and actually created probably a more enriching experience from a very small village that some people have even in their larger areas. But again, that's a separate conversation. I understand the rural strains, the pressures, the difficulties. I think that's probably more like the playing the game. I think I was trapped in this headspace where I thought, by pulling this hard lever, will force people to go back into playing the game how it used to be. But we're not in that position right now. And this game's player base has changed so much because of the way the game survived. The pandemic meant that Niantic had to keep the game alive. And by doing it and some of the things they changed, it did allow them to carry on giving people an experience. We've seen elements of it change quicker, like the incense effectiveness, that dropped away quite quickly. The radius of spinning poker stops and gyms, that created quite a bit of noise. And this was an element that a lot of people have sort of enjoyed the aspect of playing it, because it hasn't just been about giving accessibility to people to raid loads. It's given accessibility to players who can't raid because of these things. Now, going back to the original point you had made there, Ian, the question about nerfing it and what does that really look like? Now, this was the bit I did agree on. I do think there is a way of achieving a bit of both, but I think they've catastrophically got the number wrong. Where this number's come from, I really don't understand the logic behind it. It feels like it's some of the things that you said, Milo, as well, people play the game in different ways and people should have the opportunity to do this, but not 5. I think 5's far too low. I'm not going to put a number on it, by the way. They haven't really thought about it. They haven't really listened. And like Nick said, this isn't the first time. This won't be the last time. From the noise that we're hearing across social media, is this disgruntled 99.9% of the players. That kind of speaks volumes. Maybe something will come out off the back of this, but it hasn't before, has it? So,
well, the only thing I could think of that was impacted, we all got infuriated by, and then they kind of adjusted, was as Nick mentioned, the community days. They dropped it down to 3 hours. We had 2 or 3 community days where it was only 3 hours. They did some potentially rough evaluation of the times of when people played. They jostled it around between Saturday and Sunday. And then they started adding in the epic raids at the end, saying you can add extra time to your community day, which I think was a very good option, as Nick mentioned, to basically add on to your community day. So you have a 3-hour window, but then you can extend it if you choose to.
Yes.
But it still didn't stop the backlash and the sort of poor way it was delivered initially. If they waited and then maybe came up with a concept, it would have been received more warmly. We may be in a similar situation now.
That's a fair point, Milo. And of course, Nick's here. I remember Nick did a video where he interviewed Kestrel around about that time. And they actually did say that there were things in place that were coming, but they weren't ready at the time when they did actually axe the...
And there was similar wording in articles and press releases.
Going back to where... you don't know where the number 5's come from, Mark. So... was it Ed Wu?
Ed Wu.
That was some evil laugh, Ian. What was that? That was like, you were like...
So the number 5's come from Ed Wu's vision of the average Pokemon GO player, and I quote,
median.
Is that of a Singaporean grandma who walks with her senior group for 30 to 60 minutes every morning for her exercise and focuses on catching Pokemon with her friends and maybe occasionally participates in a raid.
I know a Singaporean grandma with over 1 billion XP.
I was thinking of the 2 who used to play with Brandon Tan back in the day. That's what I was thinking of when that came to mind. I was like, what?
Yeah.
They tried to use a similar wording with the com days as well, something similar about taking the laws of average. I think personally, they may think differently, but taking an average from something, you miss a hugely epic proportion of data to narrowly focus and roughly go, I think we should do this. Well, then you're cutting off like 90%.
The thing is, you can make data show you whatever you want it to see, realistically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Coopsy, what are your thoughts, man?
You've been dying to hear this, eh, Ian?
All day.
I'm not just saying this, Nick, because I'm your biggest fan, but I've been thinking exactly what you've been thinking today. This hashtag #HearUsNiantic on social media this time around, it just doesn't feel right. I have got involved, and the reason why I've got involved personally for me is because I love this game and I want this game to thrive. And at some point in the last, coming up to 7 years, is that right, boys? Oh,
July,
like
yeah.
That, yes.
Yeah,
Wait
for
the Squirtle event.
Buzzing. But yeah, and to be completely honest with you, this game has got me through some really, really, really bad times. And not to repeat myself, but I want Pokemon GO to be great again. I really, really, really do. But like I said at the start, this hashtag #HearUsNiantic, it just didn't feel right. And the reason why is because exactly what Nick said, they don't care. I've known this over the years. I've known this from all of the stuff they've done, from the original hashtag #HearUsNiantic. Their vision is not about us. Their vision is their vision. And like Nick said, whether that really is, they really want us to go out in parks and communicate, I don't think it is. I think they want data of the world from us as their little minions. That's
GPS,
just that's just my personal opinion. But, obviously I got involved because, like I said, game's been a huge part of my life. This podcast wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the game. So I want to support everybody's feelings, and that I will always stand by. But Ian, to answer your question...
Haven't you answered it yet?
Huh?
Haven't you answered?
No.
Is this me? I'm shocked.
No.
Oh my God. Have I not answered it? Oh my God. I think limiting raids, whether that was to 3 raids, 5 raids, 10 raids, 15 raids, I think it's confusing. I think it really, really, really makes raiding confusing. Numbers far too low. And that's fine. If they want to stop their billions of dollars coming in a year, that's fine. Like, put a tab on it. But yeah, 5's too low. Don't agree with it. Yeah. And like I said at the start, Reg Ice... Thunderous, I raid 0. I raid 0. But when it comes to all banner aside, but when it comes to Giratina Origin, it's just confusing.
Yep, I'll complete the circle. I totally think it's a bad decision. I'm not really sure what is going on in the boardroom when Niantic make this decision, but if I'm honest, I kind of do feel a little bit along similar lines as Mark in that there should be a limit on what you can do, because remote raiding, as Nick pointed out, was never intended to be part of the game. It was only introduced as a COVID benefit when we literally couldn't go out. But because of that, it has benefited so many people across the world, whether that's people at home with kids, whether that's people that work unsociable hours, whether that is people that are disabled. The list goes on. And if I wanted to get into my Elon frame of mind, I would just say 5 raids, 5 raids, 5 raids to every one of those questions, because remote raiding isn't going away. And that's what I'm taking away from this. Regardless of whether Niantic do listen, remote raiding isn't going away. But 5 remote raids a day, personally, I don't feel cuts it. I'm not sure what that number should be. If you ask me, 100 is way too many, but 5 is way too few. I personally, somewhere in the range of 10 to 20 a day. But again, I know for a fact, just based on the 5 of us talking, that most people aren't even doing 5 raids a day. But there are a small proportion of the player base. Yes, there is a small proportion of the player base that raids constantly, and it's those people that are going to be severely impacted by this. So it's not right. I hope Niantic listen, but
Ian,
history has...
Do you mind if I just quickly add something in? I feel like I'm not disregarding your point on the average thing, but for me, we have had legendary Pokemon, like Lugia and Ho-Oh, like 8-9 times, and we have had
there's fatigue.
Landorus,
yeah, there will be
Thunderous.
fatigue for certain months.
So what? It's really difficult for me because it's like, of course, 3 years after their release, my average is going to be at 0. Whereas if they've just come out, like, do you know what I'm trying? I think it's
well.
I will 100% stick to the average of the conversation without a doubt, bro. It just doesn't sit right on my, because I feel like it's weird because we're talking about Lugia at the moment, but it's literally been out about 15
Lugia.
times.
We just said it was in raids. Well, I'm not talking.
But that's the problem.
Lugia.
I know what Coops is getting at. Is that like we've all played this game since basically day one.
So
we have a very different attitude. We've always seen it on various posts and stuff like that. Some people are very excited Lugia's here at the moment.
And that's another thing. There are a proportion of the player base have never known anything else.
Yeah.
There are new players that have joined since 2020 and have never known anything else. But Niantic have made a business decision. Unfortunately, it's looking like that we're going to have to, as Nick said, just unfortunately suck it up and deal with it, whether we like that or not. Would they be prepared to listen to us and move that sort of raid cap? I don't know. But one thing I do know, and I've been looking on socials and looking back over the history, like, if you remember Liz George, she got death threats over the last Heroes Niantic.
Yeah.
Tyler, one of our current community managers, has had a death threat over this on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that.
Again, there's a way to engage with community managers, and you know what? It's all right being upset, but if you're going to give feedback, please do it in a constructive way. There's no need for that at all.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, these are individuals as well. These are individual people. You don't treat anybody with that kind of attitude at all.
Well, that's what I'm saying. These are community managers. These are the people that are on our side, if anybody. These are the ones that will be feeding back to John Hankey and the board, the people that actually make the decisions. Moving back into the conversation, so the remote raid cap is only part of the problem, and as we know, Niantic have also put up the price of raid passes quite substantially so.
They hate us.
Well, we know that it's not a purely financial decision, otherwise they wouldn't have actually capped the raids, but there's obviously some financial aspect to it. So Remote raid passes are going to go up to 195 Pokecoins from currently 100, and 3-packs are going to go up to 525 coins from 300. But they are actually going to give us a 3-pack of in-person raid passes, premium battle passes, for 250 coins. So a bit of a saving. So what are our thoughts around this? Because this is kind of like, well, we're going to restrict what you can do, but we're going to get some sort of revenue out of you.
Unfortunately, this is a belt and braces attitude to trying to get people out to do in-person raids, which, as we said, may be easier said than done for many players who've got mobility issues or other aspects, social anxiety, or don't actually have a local community. And I thought this when I read the article, one or the other should have been enough. If you're limiting people to how many they can do per day, why does it matter that remote raid passes are the same? Because in essence, they do practically the same function. They're a ticket into a raid lobby to try and catch a legendary and maybe get what is these days a pretty pathetic amount of items. You're more than likely going to get 24 hyper potions and a few golden rares, and you may get a rare candy if you're very lucky. Whacking the price up as well feels like a massive kick in the crotch, in my view. If there was no limit, I would argue that perhaps, and we saw this a while back when they increased it by 50 coins on the 3-pack, an increase in price a little bit to give it maybe some extra value, say like, well, you could do this remote raid and go and remote globally, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. A full 100% increase on the price doesn't sit well with me at all, and I think you're doubly taking away a function that quite a few people rely on. If you're capping it, why are you whacking the price up as well? One or the other, in my view.
I agree. I think that increasing the price alongside the cap, sure, they want to try to push you towards buying the in-person ones, but it feels like an attempt to make up for the revenue that they're going to lose because there's a cap. Because people can't buy 50 passes in one day anymore. They're going to have to charge those people more to make up for it. But I feel like ultimately, in a way, what it becomes is what's called a disability tax.
Yeah.
For people who actually need to raid remotely, people with disabilities, people who physically cannot go out the way that able-bodied people can, it costs more for them to do the same thing that able-bodied people are able to do cheaper. And I don't think that's just, it's unfair. I definitely agree, one or the other, but man, I don't know is my tagline for this one.
I'm totally down the same line, one or the other. I mean, it really is after capping you at 5 raids and then say we're going to charge you double for the passes. It's kind of rubbing salt into the wounds, really, isn't it?
No, I was really shocked. Obviously, like, I knew that they'd make them more expensive, but like they've nearly doubled. Like, that's crazy. And it's like, I don't know why, but I always have this thing that it was always $250. Like, the bundles were always $250 for free raid passes back in the day.
Then it went up to
300.
Yeah.
A little while back.
The whole thing's weird. Like I said, it's just confusing, and it's like when I saw that price, I had to like sort of, I know I wear glasses now, but I had to sort of like double take and be like, wait, does that say 500 and something? Like we were saying earlier, as much as we want to say it's about money, they don't care about money. They just want us out there, as we mentioned earlier. But at the same time, people that are addicted to the game and addicted to remote raiding are still going to remote raid regardless. So they're still, you're kind of like, it's just really, it's confusing.
It's weird.
Mark, what do you think?
I wish they would have reduced the in-person raid passes by 95 coins each. That would have been a fair compromise, wouldn't it?
Well, that's actually a good point. Why not make the in-person pass 50 coins so you can get one every day if you get your maximum coins from the gyms, if money's not the problem?
Yeah. Right, exactly. If it's not about the money, then why not? I do think that like there is a difference between remote raid passes, and the premium in-person passes. Like a remote raid pass is more powerful, because of the amount of time that it saves you, the amount of effort that it saves you. If you don't have to spend 20 minutes walking to a gym, organize 6 other people to show up, there is a disparity in the power level between the two. I just don't know how you address that without hurting, again, disabled players who actually do rely on the remote raid pass to do what able-bodied players are able to do with a regular raid pass. I don't know what the solution is.
That is a good point, Nick. If you remember all the WhatsApp groups, chats, Facebook, organizing raids, it was very time consuming to actually organize a raid.
It's a premium item at the end of the day, so a premium item should attract a higher cost to it. But maybe on this timeline, if they put the prices up on the premium remote raids without restricting them as a first point, when the pandemic relaxation sort of happened a year ago. So where are we now? 23. They've been riding on these remote raid passes for probably a year longer than they needed to. But if they put the prices up and left them in the game as normal, okay, it would have caused a bit of noise, but I think it would have at least given, a phased approach to this. The price increase is ridiculous, how they've done it this time around, because it feels like they're trying to make up for lost income by penalising people by charging them more for something, but at the same time, using this tagline is we want to get you back out there as a softener to it all, to feel like they justify it. It's the one bit that really sticks to me is this price increase. It's not even like, it's a massive jump up, isn't it? It's not like a nominal amount. It's a real bit, and they're not giving the saving back the other side on the in-person raids. It just doesn't sit well. And I think as people have let the dust settle from the initial announcement, I think this is what people are really, really frustrated about now, is this price bit. Everything's expensive at the moment. We talk about inflation, certainly here in the UK, it's not unique to the UK. Cost of living, all these great challenges that people are feeling around the world.
And Mark, the game's just really expensive anyway. Like, go back to 2 weeks ago. I've always said Pokemon GO, it's not cheap. It's a really expensive continual game. If you like and are addicted to the game and you want to get all the good stuff, it's really expensive. So I agree. This has just not helped at all. But I suppose, bit of silver lining, if you were going to do 50 remote raids in a day at the normal price, and now you can only do 5, I suppose technically you really are saving money at the end of the day.
Silver lining.
Yeah, I mean, technically you actually are saving more money, but yeah.
Okay, so as we record this today, it's Tuesday, the 4th of April, and a number of creators throughout the Pokemon GO community, content creators and the community members, have started a second Heroes Niantic movement today. Now, unfortunately, they picked a day where the Barbie movie is trending and the Trump arraignment is trending, so probably didn't have as much impact as they probably wanted. But obviously, it has been trending. I think it peaked at number 3 today, and so Niantic will have seen this. What do we think about this campaign? I think Nick touched on it earlier that Niantic will listen, but will they do anything? What do we actually think? Will Niantic make a statement? Will they actually give us any feedback? Will they backtrack? What do we reckon?
I think fundamentally, and this is something I've seen quite a few people commenting on, which in my mindset does puzzle me slightly, and it may be different, having only been in the space for a couple of years. It's better to try and fail than to not try at all, I think. And certainly the community does want to try, which is great to see. Niantic will have seen this, as you say. Whether they act on it is entirely their prerogative. And at the very least, they can put out a statement and acknowledge it. Whether anything happens on the back of that does remain to be seen. I am skeptical on that, unfortunately, because it seems like a very hard line. They've just kind of put the meat cleaver down and gone, this is the line, this is where we're going with it.
Yeah, they gave us, a week's notice?
I would rather they responded and were just sort of brutally honest with it if they're not going to change anything, rather than give false hope, because then at least we as a player base know where we stand, fully know where we stand with regarding it. This is the second time we've done a social media movement in just under 2 years, actually, because the first one was August or so, 2021.
Yeah, the 4th, I think, the 4th of August, I think.
I believe
but
so.
At the risk of sounding like Coops, do they need to give us a statement? Because they've told us they're doing this. We know it's happening on Thursday. Do they really need to come back and tell us?
The thing is, if they don't, that speaks worse for a company dealing with mobile gaming, having a social media presence and everything. I think you're better to respond and say something, at least, to something that was trending at number 3 than not say anything at all, to be honest.
I struggle with this, and we've touched on this, because we love the game. Even if they didn't do a statement and nothing was said, this is their feature. They can do what they want at the end of the day.
Yep.
Guess who's going to be playing in remote raiding tomorrow? We will be. Like, I don't get it. It's kind of like I kind of like, and again, I'm not disregarding your point, Milo, but it's just kind of like, this is why the Heroes Niantic for me. Sorry, Ian, I did mention this earlier.
No, it's all right.
But it just didn't feel right this time round. And on points that I made earlier, it doesn't. I will support it because you're my friends. I've met amazing people through this game. Like I said, I've been watching, YouTubers like Nick here since 2016. So it's been a big part of my life, but it just doesn't feel right because I know that they just don't care and they're not going to do anything about it. So obviously, is it going to be reverted? No. The price will stay the same. Do I think we'll get a statement? I think they will, just because, 2023, it's just kind of, what's expected. Like Milo said, I think as a company, they should do that. And I think they will do that. Saying that same old jargon, probably copy and pasted from August 2021.
They don't change the date on it.
Yeah, to be fair, mate, they might not even change the date.
yeah, exactly.
It'll still say 2021.
But do I think they'll revert anything? No, but I think that they may increase the cap of 5 without a doubt. I think out of all of it, what you've asked, Ian, I think the only thing that I think might change is the 5, and it will go to 6. No, it will go from 5 and it will go like you said, potentially 15, 25. Not too sure yet, but I think that, in my opinion, in the next 2 months, I think that will be the only thing that changes.
I'm kind of with you on that, Coops. It's like, I haven't, at this point, I haven't posted it. I haven't tweeted, Yeah, can you believe it? I don't know. I agree. It feels different this time. Like I said, I kind of have a different perspective at this point where I don't want to say given up because that's not really what it is. It's just acceptance again of like, this is something that I have accepted is out of my control. And I obviously want to support the community. The community is what this game is about.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, I honestly, deep down, don't believe that anything will come of it. So I almost feel torn between I want to support the community. I want people to know that I'm on their side, but I don't want to almost give a sense of hope.
Like false hope almost.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying be hopeless, but I'm also saying maybe don't be hopeful, acceptance is just kind of in between those two things. It's not hope, it's not hopelessness. It's okay, it is what it is. And I don't know. I almost would encourage people to just take a few steps back and really, really look at this and break down what it means to you. What does it actually mean? What are we losing here? We're losing the ability to raid remotely more than 5 times in one day. What does that mean for you? I mean, as a matter of fact, that's what it is. You can't do more than 5 raids in a day. Anything beyond that is, I think we assign some meaning to it, whether that's, I don't get to interact with this community that I've grown to love as much as I used to be able to. Any number of things. People assign meaning to it, and I don't know. I don't really know where. Someone jump in and help me here. I don't know where I'm going with this.
I think I know where you're going. It is about those communities that people have formed over the last 3 years, essentially, and raiding with people. For example, we can raid with you now as many raids as you will accept or you'll send us, but it will be limiting. So you're going to have to then pick who you're going to raid with. And then it gets quite controversial. I'm not going to jump into that raid because they're rural. They're not going to have as many people in that lobby. It runs the risk of becoming quite difficult in a lot of ways. I don't know.
Yeah, you'll have to be very selective.
I mean, I feel that as players, as humans, we're pretty resilient, and I have confidence that people will be able to adapt to whatever changes ultimately end up happening. Whether that means you have to put a little bit more effort into planning your remote raids. Say, in this scenario, nothing changes. Niantic concedes nothing. We get 5 remote raids a day. I think I can still see a future where, people are just a little bit more coordinated with when they're doing their remote raids and who they're inviting to them. And I don't know, worst case, yeah, people are going to ignore certain raids because they don't think it's going to get done, or they're going to be more selective about, whose raids they accept. But I just wouldn't underestimate our ability as people to adapt, to whatever the outcome ends up being.
And it is raw at the moment, right? So you can understand that people are very frustrated.
Oh, absolutely.
Going back to the thing about the Heroes Niantic this time around, I mean, the first time around, I was very more involved in it than this one. And I think when I look at this letter that's been constructed, and I think there's some really valid points in there, because it has a lot of meaning to individuals and collectively in releasing it. I only saw bits on it that I related to. It didn't feel I didn't look at it and read it from start to finish, go, yeah, every single bit of that. Because I think, like you just said, you put a value on bits and how it relates to you, and it'll impact people in different ways. I've naturally slowed down on raiding. When the Tapus came out, they were new Shinies, but I didn't push for them at all. That was just personal choice. I've gone past that point of the game. So I think it's only right that bits of it don't resonate with me maybe as much, because that part of the game doesn't mean as much to me. I think, will Niantic release a statement? Yes, I think they will. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it will be generic. And I think they'll say they've listened. And I do still harbour beliefs that they're going to make the in-person experience better for people somehow. I don't know what that looks like yet. And maybe we'll find out more as this spring part of the year or autumn, wherever you are in the world, moves further into it. I think they've probably underestimated how close a connection the remote raiding has given people, definitely. I think that's the bit that hurts people the most, is that they might not ever be able to raid with their people, or they feel they might not be able to raid them off the bat. I think you're right. We're resilient creatures, humans are. We will find ways to modify it. We will find ways to get out of it what we can with the restrictions that they present us with. I think we've always been like that. I think that will not change.
Life will find a way.
Yes,
Life will find a way, absolutely. And I think now we've gone past the initial 48-hour period, and we're well beyond that now, aren't we? Now we're a couple of days away as we're recording this from the changes being applied to the game. I know it's only been a week notice that they've given us, but I think people now are really, they're finding that money bit quite painful. And I know I'm repeating myself a bit on that, but I think that's the bit that's really sort of causing it really reiterates the fact it's a business, doesn't it? When you put a monetary thing to something, when you've been given loads of things, it feels nice. But when they start actually sort of putting a value on it and increase it, and it feels a bit more business-ish like, doesn't it? More transactional. I'm a strong believer. I'm a firm believer, and I certainly do believe that we're not going to get the response we want off the back of this. But does it mean we give up hope? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, well said, Mark. I genuinely hope that Niantic do listen. I genuinely hope that they do give us some sort of feedback or statement. Do I think anything will be done? I would love to say yes. I tend to try and be quite positive about things, but you know what? The four of you are right. This does feel very different this time than last time when we did it. I mean, last time it was trending number 2 behind Taylor Swift, and it was trending for a long time. I mean, I've just checked now, and it's not even in the top 30 trending in the States at the moment. So it's trended, but it fell out of the trends very quickly. But that doesn't mean that we haven't been heard. And let's just see if Niantic do actually feed back to us. And yeah, I think we can all agree it sucks. But I do like Nick's stance in that, you know what, the only people that we're actually causing pain to by being upset about it is ourselves. And we're entitled to be upset. Don't get me wrong. We are definitely entitled to be upset. And that brings me to the next thing. Milo, I think we've got a couple of WhatsApps there from a couple of our listeners.
We do indeed. So our first is from Gold Patron member, HermesNinja, Sue.
Hey guys, HermesNinja here. Oh boy, do I have thoughts on Niantic's latest bombshell. But, so as not to go on too long like our darling pen pals Simon or Lachlan, I'm going to restrict my thoughts to one topic. Balance. You know, I read the Eurogamer article about Niantic's vision and felt like throwing something against the wall. Ed Wu's statements were entirely conclusory, meaning that he stated conclusions without giving any support or evidence whatsoever for those conclusions. Where's the proof that restricting remote raids will put the game back, quote-unquote, into balance? As far as I'm concerned, there's never been a balance in the game because there is no balance in life. That simply isn't a thing. As long as city players have practically unlimited Pokestops and gyms, while rural players have few, if any, there's no balance. As long as spoofers can hop into any gym all around the globe and take down a raid boss without having to send out one remote raid invite for assistance, there can be no balance. While people who have to play from home because of work or family obligations or disability or weather conditions or anything else for that matter, as long as those people need to send out remote invites in order to take down a raid boss, there can be no balance. I'd always thought that by jumping into remote raids and helping my friends and our Discord members and your patrons take down raid bosses, I was helping to create a sense of balance. By getting together with my local crew and sending out remote invites to friends who don't have local communities, I thought I was helping to create a sense of balance. But since Niantic doesn't see that as balance, but instead the polar opposite, I am done remote raiding. And it literally hurts my heart to say that. I took so much joy in remote raiding during my 12-hour workdays, in between meetings and conference calls, or after 10 p.m. when my workday was finally over. But at bottom, the end of the day, I guess I'll have to look elsewhere for that joy. Don't want to continue being a downer, so I think I'm going to stop my rant right here. Et voila, those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Sue, for sending
most eloquent,
that in.
Yeah,
Definitely.
And we know Sue's pretty hardcore, or was pretty hardcore on the remote raids.
I mean, she smashed that. I think sort of we just cut out everything we've said and just have that clip as the remote raid.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
It's a balanced argument.
Sue did bring an interesting point about the balance, and remember Ed Wu bringing the article. In the article was questioned about this and said how remote raids had unbalanced the game, particularly in the XL Candy Grind pursuit, which is labeled as an end game goal. But if you don't mind, Ian, I'm going to read something that was posted by Pokemon Go Hub and shared with community leaders regarding XL Candy changes.
Oh, I saw this earlier. Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Which, until recently, we didn't know. It was noted that XL Candy and other rewards would be increased massively for in-person raids. Now, listen to this. Amount of in-person Tier 5 XL Candy drops will increase significantly, with the goal being to make in-person raids more lucrative for XL Candy, ensure continued and even wider participation in Master League. The intent is to increase Master League participation by making level 50 Pokemon more accessible and require far fewer raid passes than leveling up before. The number of remote raids required to level a single Pokemon up to level 50 will be significantly greater than in-person raids, at least with respect to XL Candy, a direct result of larger in-person XL Candy drops. And a final note, hang on. Niantic does not sell or share individualized player data with third-party sponsors, and they don't ever plan to do so. So that was put out today on the 4th. They talk about balance, and then they go against it, and then try and use the in-person raids to sort of say, unbalance it again.
Absolutely.
I think something similar was mentioned around the community day things, where they labeled people who played for 6 hours as being at a massive advantage and playing unfairly, but then they made it so that you play for 3 hours, and if you can play those 3 hours, you get crazy XL Candy boosts. We were talking about mega XL Candy drops. You're using one argument and then contradicting yourself by making something in the game have the unbalanced feature that one previously had and potentially gave more access to other people too.
I mean, Sue brought up a good point that the game has never and never could be truly balanced for all players because we don't all play on the same game board.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I live in downtown Long Beach where I can see 18 gyms from where I'm sitting. That's not the case for everyone.
Yeah.
So just based on where I live, I can get things done faster. I can get more candy for Pokemon. I can do more raids. I just have access to more. So yeah, I mean, remote raid passes definitely helped balance the game for rural players. And I think what Niantic are trying to do now is they're really limiting the most hardcore players, right? Like that's who this affects the most. Aside from the price increase affecting, people with disabilities who now have to pay more to have the same experience. This really limits the most hardcore players. And I don't really know that that's a huge issue. If their median player is a Singaporean grandma who goes out for 30 to 60 minutes with her exercise group every day.
You know her, right?
I know her very well. Like, what does it matter if someone else can max out their Pokemon in a single day? Like, what does that do? What is their fear? If it's about Master League balance, I haven't seen much from them over the last couple years that suggests that balancing PvP is really a priority.
Agreed.
The PvP experience has not been, it's been subpar, right? Even now at a competitive level. And there's all kinds of ways that people are, using certain exploits and third-party apps to gain an 100%. Advantage. And again, curbing the number of remote raids that you can do isn't going to help balance it. The people who already have an advantage by essentially doing things that are against terms of service are going to continue to have that advantage.
Yep.
So I don't know. I don't really know how you make an argument for balance in this game. It's very difficult when there isn't a clear end game.
Yeah, but there's not though, and everyone's touched on it, and obviously I know we still talk about Sue's voice message, but this is what I'm saying about confusion. It's like from when we used to go out, do raid days, go from gym to gym to gym in person, 2018, 19, the game and the statistics and the RNG has completely shifted and completely changed with XL Candy and this, that, and the other. So it's like, it just makes the whole thing confusing. It's like, when all the raids come out, towards Australia and New Zealand, the new raid bosses, like people that I would raid with, like Milo and Ian and Mark and Sue, they're going to do the raid straight away because they want the shinies and they want the new mon. So then when I go to play in my time zone in the evening, I'm going to spend like half an hour. And if it's Lugia and you need 6-7 people, I'm going to spend like 8 tries trying to invite.
Just trying to get the right people who haven't burnt their 5 invites. And people that want to raid and people that can afford to raid. And there's a lot of options and contingencies to go through. I literally did like 40 Ho-Oh raids and got no shiny, which is fine. But then if Ho-Oh's only out for a weekend or 5-6 days, but I'm not going to raid in person, so I can only do 5 a day. Like it just gets weird. Like the whole thing. So what? Now do raid bosses have to come out for 2 months at a time? Like for me to be able like they did in 2017.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? For me to get 5 or 6 shinies, maxing my remotes a day. Like is that what? So then I have them for my lucky trades, which I can maybe now not interact with someone for weeks because they don't join my remote race. I just feel like it just becomes really confusing.
It just gets way too complicated.
And like this really unnecessary unbalance, which is funny because like what we're talking about, they say they're trying to balance, but in my opinion, they're making it really unbalanced. And I just wanted to add that in because I know I've mentioned the word confusing a few times, but it just I just find it really confusing. So like it's like, now what have I got to raid Giratina Origin every time it comes round for 6 years in a row to finally get a hundo? Like it should. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree.
They want the longevity.
Yeah. Jumping into this, Lachlan, Milo's bestie, messaged us and he wrote us quite a long letter. I'm going to kind of abridge this, but I'll get to the bit that references what we're talking about. So I wrote this letter under a few drinks, so I thought it would be best to type out what I was thinking rather than send a voice note. You asked for feedback on the current raid situation. I made a pros and cons list. So under pros, he's put, hopefully a return to my community's amazing raid trains. Another reason to drag lucky friends back to the gym for raids and trades. Social aspect that comes from actually doing raid trains, meals, 1 to 2 hours a day, random chats, socializing. Doggos at raids. Don't know what that means. Does it mean animals, dogs, or does it mean something else? He's Australian, so God knows.
Woof.
Yeah,
not the other outdoor pursuit.
Hopefully less poor raid days. I had to change that word there. And a return to legendary Pokemon, Kanto Burst, Johto Beast, Regigigas, limited research days, etc., etc. Shared gameplay experience of Shinies, Hundos, etc., and hugs. And under cons, he said, less raids with my husband, the Ninja and the New Jersey crew, and the other beautiful human beings around the globe. Campfire isn't fully rolled out yet, and that's a good point. It isn't.
True fact.
Yeah. Having to wait for people to get to raids that are stuck in traffic. Yeah, I think we can all feel his pain there. Having to jump in and out of local raids because somebody's forgotten to jump in. Yeah, we forgot about that. That used to happen a lot, didn't it?
Yes.
In a lobby, out a lobby, in a lobby, and then you'd eventually get to raid.
Tiresome.
Hopefully less Pokemon in raid days that are only in raids because Niantic hasn't figured out a good way to make them obtainable via evolution. Raids with walls that are not otherwise accessible, and not all gyms are accessible 24 hours a day. And the final one, stinky people. So that's Lachlan's
stand
thoughts
up
list.
wind.
Yes. But I think we've got one more message from an old friend.
Yo, Pimp House, I'm in house. On the changes to raid pass prices and limiting the number of raids, I've heard a lot of opinions against the changes and tend to agree. I'm definitely batting for team #HermesNinja on this one. I've heard some quiet whispers of approval from some people, and I do understand both sides of the argument. But it's something that I've not heard factored into anybody's opinion yet. And I wanted to bring it to the table because I've not heard it being discussed. Now, I'll use myself as an example here. I don't have any of my legendary Pokemon up to level 50 yet. I don't have the XL to do it. I do spend a little bit of cash here and there on the game, but so far I've been too tight to raid enough to Maxington any of my legendaries yet. But it was nice to have the option there to do it, and I expect I probably would have done someday. Everybody else who has done lots of remote raiding has now done it, and it sort of, they've all been around multiple times now. There's tons of you out there that have all got level 50 meta legendaries. So new players and those of us too frugal to blow the cobwebs out of our wallets in time are now absolutely buggered in Open Master League and will never get the chance to catch up. Yeah, thought worth mentioning that. Also, just saying, Mark, if you invite me to any more one-star rural raids, I'll happily pay £1.78 to join you every single time. And I've got a little picture of you in my wallet that I look at while we raid together. Bye.
Eases the pain.
Mark's dying.
It is actually a very valid point. Very valid point. I know we've mentioned, and it has been mentioned about players who don't have a local community. I do think that stretches further than maybe just people who are in a rural area. People may be in a town or whatever who don't have the availability of people. And if they do, they might be newer players, lower level players. It could be a potential problem. And that's maybe where the strategy of trying to utilize the online communities that have been built, you're going to have to spend potentially more time faffing around seeing who's available for an invite and all of that. Because we know for a factor, the online system on the raids is quite basic on that friends list. You can easily invite 10 people to a raid and they could all be in trade screen, transfer Pokemon storage, binning bloody berries out of your bag, or in another remote raid or in a local raid. They won't get the pop-up saying you've invited them to a raid. So how are you going to differentiate on your friends list who's already used their 5 remote passes versus those who are available?
But I'm sure they thought it through, Milo.
Are we sure about that?
Surely.
They wouldn't do something rashly, would they?
No.
No.
Reggie Drago. What?
I genuinely think this discussion is going to go on, and we'll be talking about it over the next few weeks. But let's move away from the heavy discussions and let's move into another game. Yes, 2 games this week. This one's called The Generation Game. So, Nick, this is another game that we've introduced since you were last on, and this one's simple. I'm just going to give you all the name of a Pokemon each in turn, and you're going to tell me what generation the Pokemon is from. Simple. Let's start with Whitfield.
Hello.
Your Pokemon is Persian.
That's his good old Generation Uno.
Good stuff. Masterful 27. Your Pokemon is Ditto.
Oh, well, Ian, isn't that good old-fashioned Kanto?
Yep, Coops' favourite generation. Le Casual. Your Pokemon for the first round is Lantern.
Great League what?
Well, I don't understand why they both got the easiest ones in the world and mine's...
Yours isn't difficult. Seriously, I've given everyone easy ones to start with on round one.
No, it's like, okay, Lantern's either 2 or 3. I laugh it was 4. I'm going to go 2. I'm going to go Johto.
It is Johto, correct.
Hey.
Right, Mr. Oyzon. Your favourite Pokemon is Sandshrew.
Correct.
What generation is Sandshrew from?
It is a Generation 1 Pokemon.
Correct. Okay, so move on to round 2. So, we'll stick with the same order. Whitfield, your next Pokemon is Vespiquen.
I've got no idea what that is.
It's the evolution of Combi.
It is.
Oh,
I think that's Sinnoh. Gen 4.
It most certainly is, my friend.
Well done, Milo.
New shiny at Seattle.
Yes. Masterful 27. Your next Pokemon is Toxicroak.
Ooh.
Tricky Pokemon.
Sinnoh?
It is Sinnoh.
Well done.
Does it have the hat or not?
No. Casual Coops. Your second Pokemon is, I think it's one of your favourites actually, Regigigas.
Oh my god. Hold on. Legendary birds, then legendary beasts. Then the Reggies were Gen 4 or 5, maybe 4. So then that means Regigigas is the same gen. So Gen 4?
It is Sinnoh. Yes,
Oof,
Gen 4.
Oof.
Wrong logic, but...
oh, is it? Is it the wrong logic?
You got there, though.
We got there in the end.
Fair.
Okay, Nick. Your next Pokemon for round 2 is Grumpig.
Grumpig. Gen 3.
It is, Hoen.
In Vegas.
Well done. Everyone got through to round 3. I think this is where people started dropping out last time we played this game. Okay, Mr. Whitfield. Round 3. Your Pokemon is Stoutland.
Gen 5.
Correct. Barrow. Your next Pokemon is Mushana.
I'm going to go... I don't know. I'm just going to pull a Coops one up my arse. It all starts in Unova. Unova.
It is Unova. Yes, correct. Okay. Casual Coops. Your next Pokemon is Levany.
Yeah, but what are you getting out of this? You know I don't know what that is.
Mild satisfaction.
What is Levany?
You pick a number between 1 and 9.
Levany. Right, so that's definitely not Gen 1 to 5. There's no way, because I've never heard of Levany.
It's not in his Pokedex.
Unless I've just not evolved it. Gen 6.
Wrong. Gen 5. It's the evolution of Masterful 27's favourite.
Sewaddle? It was close, actually, to be
Close,
fair.
yeah. It was only one generation out.
It was
So
close.
Coops is out. Okay, so Nicholas
Yep, we know.
Oyzon.
Thanks, Ian.
Your next Pokemon is Porygon Z.
Oh no. Jeez, when did they upgrade it? That was the generation with all the evolutions, I think. Was it? Gen 4?
Correct.
Oh, thank God.
Right, okay, so round 4. Milo Whitfield.
Aye.
Doublade.
¿Por qué?
Doublade.
What? I've not heard of this, so I'm gonna say Alola Gen 7.
Gen 6. It's the Kalosmon.
Oh,
Steel
what?
Ghostmon from Gen 6.
Is it like a mythical or something?
And not in Pokemon Go.
It's not released yet, to my knowledge, but okay.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Masterful 27.
Yes, Ian.
Your next Pokemon is, I think it's Bounsweet.
That sounds like an Alolan Pokemon, Ian.
It is an Alolan Pokemon. It is Gen 7. It's from Alola. It's a grass-type Pokemon.
Ooh.
Nick, right. Tell me what generation PoGoMiLUK's from.
That, I think, is also an Alolan Pokemon.
It is.
It's gotta be.
Yes.
Okay.
What we described last week as a bad takeout.
Yes. Actually, we said bad sushi, didn't we?
Yeah, bad dodgy sushi.
Okay, so round 5. I'm running out of Mons here, so hopefully we get a winner soon. So, Masterful 27, your next Pokemon is Stakataka.
Stakataka. Sinnoh?
No, it's from Alola. It's not technically a Pokemon, it's an Ultra Beast. It's from Alola.
Oh.
Okay, so Nick, for the win.
Okay.
Your next Pokemon is Wiglet.
That is, oh my god, what's the newest generation? 9.
It is Paldea Pokemon. Nick, you are the winner. Both games tonight, man. Well done.
You smashed it.
Undefeated.
Congratulations.
Speech.
Thank you.
Go on, Nick. So wait, so you came on the podcast and redeemed yourself and won, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, he won the pub quiz and 2 games as well tonight.
And now you've come back on and won 2 games. Yeah. Go. Next, you'll be trying to get on. Is that Mark's
I wouldn't wish that upon anyone, Nick. So, I got my poll out earlier in the week because there was a need to. And, yeah.
I arrived early.
I left it out for a little bit longer than normal as well. But, yeah, we put
gave
the
it a
poll
good
out.
airing.
The question was, come on, community, what are we thinking about remote raiding being restricted? So it was right in the heat of the moment. It was like literally just putting the red rag to the bull. It was right out there as this happened. We had 1,000...
That's a girl cow, not a boy cow, Milo.
We don't have one, okay?
Girl cow. We had 1,022 people on my poll when this one came out.
Jesus.
Yeah,
impressive number. That's a large poll.
I'm impressed at the stamina.
But we only had 54 people retweet it. Come on. I keep saying this. Retweet.
That's a bad ratio.
That's 5%, isn't it?
Awful ratio. So I'm gonna throw a few comments out before we reveal we know what the result is, but we're gonna throw a few comments on the page. JB said, I feel like it can't be helped, but I still think it's a bad idea. I know Niantic is just stubbornly pushing its core, but I feel betrayed to be left out after giving them tons of money. It'll be sad to see my global community die. Jackson Tan said, I believe it is almost 100% price increase. This will be more hurtful than the limitation of raids per day. Magpie Malcolm has tweeted and said, go out and raid in person. Yeah, because that works. Did they forget about the elite raids they broke 2 days in a row and have been quiet on? Thomas96_Tom Ellis, but it's not a bad idea, guys. It's absolutely awful. Does Niantic genuinely want Pokemon Go to die? Do they want to kill the global community or what? Beth Stockton has also tweeted and said, I don't mind limiting it to 5 a day because a lot of people are using it instead of going out, which is what the game is originally for. But again, some areas don't have the gyms at all and only rely on remoting abroad. As for myself, I hardly get to do local raids because of that. So it's kind of be a bit generous there, looking at it from all angles there, Beth. And then I've got Darren Wykes has put, as someone who lives in a small town in the West Midlands, this puts some legendary Pokemon out of reach. With the 2 other players in the area, we can't trio mons such as Lugia, so rely on remote raiders to help. Going forward, we will struggle to get the help we need. And then I'll finish it off with James A. Vivian's comment. The only thing that bothers me is the price rise. I don't raid too much already, so I'm not fussed by the limit. So there's a right mixture there. So the results, I guess, is how many people thought it was a good idea. That's probably going to be a little bit more fun for the result of the poll. But of 1,022 people that voted, 9% think it's a good idea.
Jeez.
Wow, that's a landslide.
Yeah, still nearly 100 people, though, think it's a good idea when you look at it like that. And 91% of people think it is a bad idea. Wow.
That is a landslide.
Jeez.
Pretty decisive, isn't it? Yeah.
I did do the unofficial poll. This isn't one I did on the main account, but this is a few days after it. I did ask the question, what are you most annoyed about with regards to the recent remote raid changes? And there was 148 people that voted in this within 3 hours. I did it just before we started recording tonight. 11% of people have actually said on reflection, nothing now. 34% of people have said the restricted number of raids. And 55% of people have said the price increases.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Right, so we'll pass this over to Nick, shall we? Bring the show home, mate. Shinies of the week.
Shinies of the week.
Shinies of the week. Is this a joke? You're starting me off with this? Stephen Merrington was all set and ready to lose a will to live on the egg grind. First egg, infinite incubator. It is a shiny Riolu.
Oh my god.
Of course.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
look.
Well, congrats.
Wow.
Congratulations. I'm very happy for you. It also includes the hashtag no money for Niantic. So another win.
There you go.
Nice.
Stephen continues, and now within seconds, a shiny Mime Jr. and Chansey.
What?
Oh, wow. Even more. Within seconds. That's amazing.
That is crazy.
One good Tuesday morning.
Stephen, buy a lottery ticket.
Next up, Julia Glass says, not one I caught, but my first schlundo. Was literally in shock. Angus thought it was an April Fool's. A shiny, lucky hundo Bulbasaur.
Oh, Coops' favorite mon.
Hey! Coops' favourite mon.
Nice.
I love that. I love that. Make sure you elite TM blast burn on it, Julia.
Level 50.
Yeah.
And get it to tier 3 mega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. TJ Hollis says, not the best weather for a gig, but at least my new friend showed up. It is a shiny purloin caught from the stage at the gig. Nice.
Ooh.
Nice. I love that shiny, to be
Blue
fair.
cat.
That's
Nice.
nice.
Congratulations.
Was that soundboard?
That wasn't. That was fully organic.
Apex 171 says, WrestleMania was a success. Couldn't leave without any shinies, though. There is a shiny Slugma, shiny Bunnelby. That's awesome. Did you also see JT Gilly there? I think he was there.
Well, congrats on the shinies.
Yeah, well done.
No.
GG.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Christian Foddy says, hello, gentlemen. This is my first time tweeting to you guys. I just started listening and love the podcast. My in-game name is Staffordshire. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Staffordshire? Sheer?
Sure.
Like I said, I'm learning English for the first time. Here are my shinies from the Let's Go event. There's a lot of shinies here. Corfish, Stunfisk, Ditto, Snubble, Granbull, Vullaby.
Oh my god.
Another Snubble, another Ditto, Panseer, another Stunfisk, Roggenrola, Starly, Trubbish. Wow.
That's one hell of a good event. Jeez.
That's amazing.
That's where all the
I
shinies
played
went.
more during that event than I have in a long time, and I got one Ditto. And lastly, we have MLF 2022, one and done. Really lucky enough to get the shiny on the first raid. It is a shiny Lugia.
Oh,
Must
well
be-
done, Em. Well done.
Nice.
Nice. One and done.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Nick. Now that brings us to the end of this slightly extended episode of the Incense Podcast. Nick, thank you for joining us, man. Been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Can we extend the verbal contract for you to visit us again in the future?
You got me.
There we go.
Next time Niantic does something ridiculous,
So,
I'm here for sure.
So next week.
Yeah, right.
Back to back week.
And we don't only want to thank you, we want to thank everyone for listening, and a massive thank you to all our patrons with whom, without you, we could not make the show to the quality that we do. Bronze and silver tier members, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for being on the Patreon. And to our beloved gold tier members, who are HermesNinja, JB, CliffordMert, DerbyRuss, Kerry and Zachary, Connolly, M. Alfolk 2022, Apex 171, Professor 58, KTechnogal, and MUFTi. You guys really do enable us to go the extra mile. Now, if you haven't already, please follow us or hit the plus button on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That way you'll get new episodes straight to your device. And for Coops' sanity, please leave us a review or 5-star rating.
Nice.
And don't forget, next week's Spotlight Hour is Shelder with double candy for transferring Pokemon.
That's the good one, isn't it? That's the star piece one.
That's 1K dust per catch.
Yeah. Still won't be playing.
And on that bombshell, we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.
I choose you!